We started Angeles Investors back in late 2019, and the mission has been consistently to find, to fund, and to grow the most exciting Latino startups in America. The Latino community is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing segment in the United States. However, we lag on some of the economic metrics. This is an effort to help Latino entrepreneurs, which there are many of, to scale the business ideas that they have and to make up for the lack of resources in the community that enable the early funding of great corporate ideas.
In the first year, we ended up funding roughly 5-6 companies. We grew our membership to 50. We're now basically, we ended up funding roughly about $5 million into almost 15 startups. And our membership is just about 100 members.
It's no coincidence that I'm the chair of Angeles Investors. We think it's very important to underscore how relevant we think women are. And I think that an organization like the Mom Project, which is trying to ensure that talented women have access to corporate positions, is totally aligned with what we're trying to do in the Latino community and bringing forth the ingenuity and the skills of Latinas.
Moms, whether it's our abuelitas, whether it's our madres, our tias, our jefas, they are the pillars of our community.
Being the mother of a daughter makes the Mom Project's mission even that much more impactful and meaningful in my life. Knowing that I get to go to work every day and make an impact on women that are in similar situations to me, knowing that I'm working with companies to make a better workplace for my daughter, my future children, and future women in the workplace is very special to me.
So working at the Mom Project changed my perspective on how the workplace is by just, again, allowing that flexibility. We are now remote first, and that has been huge for me, having my daughter in school. I pick her up, I drop her off, we have a routine, and I get to step away and still have fun with her and not feel bad that someone's like looking down at me because I had to step out with my daughter.
I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the Mom Project for your sponsorship of Angeles Investors.
So on behalf of Angeles Investors, I want to thank the Mom Project for their sponsorship of our pitch night in Miami this week.
A little bit about this partnership. It's one that I'm personally so excited about. I have had the pleasure of getting to know David Olivencia, who has become an incredible mentor to me. He's been a believer in our mission since day one. And we're so excited to be able to invest back in the Hispanic community. You all are fueling the innovation. And the Hispanic community is so important to the Mom Project. We know that Hispanic mothers are driving the birth rate forward in the US, and so we want to continue to find ways to invest in, support, empower, and elevate this incredible community of women. So we're so excited to be here today in such a small way, and I hope to meet many of you soon in the near future. Cheers and good luck.
Thank you, Mom Project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mom Project.
Thanks, Mom Project.
Thanks, Mom Project.
Thank you, Mom Project.
Thank you, Mom Project. Thanks, Mom Project.
Thanks, Mom Project.
Thank you, Mom Project.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you, Mom Project. Excellent. Well, what a great video and a clear explanation of what the value of the Mom Project is, not only for Angeles investors, but for corporations. And actually, my corporation, Amazon, is one of the partners of the Mom Project. So we really believe in what this project is about. But I want to introduce the host of this CHARLA, a close friend for many, many years, David Olivencia, who has been a mentor also in a lot of things in my life, in my career. I'm very honored to have met David close to 15 years ago when we worked together at Oracle. And he opened so many doors for me in terms of understanding what diversity, community, payback is all about. So it's really, a true North Star example for me. And I want to, introduce David as the moderator of this panel. And thank you, David, for everything that you have done to the community, to Angeles investors, and really, wishing you a good job doing the CHARLA with Greg. Thank you, Greg, and the Mom Project for being here and for sponsoring the event. And have a great CHARLA. Okay?
There you go. Hey, well, first of all, thank you, Juan Carlos, and first of all, facilitating and emceeing the day is not an easy task with all the things going on. So let's give a shout out and warm to Juan Carlos for doing that today. Thank you, Juan Carlos, and you're also kind of a mentor and for me as well. Also, that video, those who participated, it was created by Salvi Media, a sponsor of Angeles. So I want to thank you, Salvi Media, for pulling that video together in very short notice. It was like a two-week kind of thing. So thank you, Salvi Media. We've had a great couple days, and we get to kind of wrap it up here, spending some time with really a hyper growth startup that's really focused on moms, right? And as I mentioned, moms are very important in our community, and important to me personally. And look forward to having this conversation. So where I'd like to take this is, let's first start out, Greg, with the Mom Project today. Kind of just to everyone, I think, might have a high level idea what it is, but let's explain kind of what it is today, the scope, the breadth, and the impact that you're having today. And then we'll go back to the early beginnings and kind of walk through the Mom Project from two sides. Like, one is like the startup side, but then other is like how investors played a role along the way. Okay. So with that, Greg, kind of what is the Mom Project and where is it today?
Thank you for that giant open-ended question. So Mom Project is a digital talent platform. All right. What does that mean? That means that we connect companies. We have 5,000 large, small, domestically, with 650,000 women on our platform and growing. And it's actually 650,000 moms, dads, and allies. So it's about 10% men, plenty of women who do not have children, right? It's really about, the recognition that a family-friendly employer is an employee-friendly employer. And if you can, associate with that, then really we're working to help you with that. But we offer jobs across project-based, full-time, flexible. So we built around this concept that across a working woman, especially a working mom's life cycle, she is going to need the opportunity to have different types of work to balance what is obviously a priority as family, right? When you have kids, it's a game-changing moment, right? And just the idea that something is as important as that is kind of silly, right? That's kind of the core thesis, right? Obviously, this is what we're here for. So let's make work compatible, or make work options compatible, so that she can choose the right options. That may be, moving to a company that has better benefits, right? Better culture, better understanding. That may be, okay, I'm having my third kid, I need to move to part-time, or God forbid, stop for a couple of years, right? And the whole idea is, how do we keep her in motion? So by making those choices to prioritize family, she isn't losing $500,000, $1 million, $2 million of economic opportunity for her and her family. So open-ended question, open-ended answer.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
So 650,000 women on the platform, global, about 2,000 customers or so.
It's about 5,000.
5,000, okay.
I'm rounding up.
That's okay, that's okay.
But those are active customers.
Yeah, no, active customers. That's great. So a lot of impact today, and we'll talk about the amount of funding and all that stuff that you got along the way, and kind of roughly where you're at now.
Takes money.
It takes money, and you all have done very well on that front. So take us back to the beginning, the very inception. How did you guys come up with this concept of the Mom Project? Who thought of it? How did you start?
Yeah, so great question. So it is a business that was founded by my wife and me together. Right? I was actually on the operations team for a private equity firm called L. Catterin. So they're consumer tech based out of Greenwich, in a nice track. And then we had our first child, Asher.
And Greg, you might need to put that a little bit closer to your mouth. There you go,
You got
just
it.
to make sure that.
And Allison was at Procter and Gamble at the time, and she previously had worked in enterprise sales. My favorite story of hers was that, one of the only ways to get fired at P&G was to go off script in a meeting with Costco because every SKU was worth $1 billion. So she really learned, what it takes to get companies to come along with something. But then she got the job of her lifetime, which was to do innovation for baby care, where she worked on the front line with mothers. And she wasn't a mother yet, but what hit home for her is that women, when they had children, that there was almost nothing they wouldn't do to build a better life for their children, right? And she tells stories about how, women would wake up at 3:30 in the morning to do online, education before they go to their shift work, right? Because there was nothing that was going to get in the way of that. And so she learned really early the power of having children, and she saw the convergence of what was happening with technology and how it was influencing every part of our life and every part of parenthood. Questions that you used to go to your abuela for, or maybe you still do. Now going to your community on Facebook, or you're going to your app that tracks your pregnancy, right? So she felt like, there's got to be a way to use technology to bridge this gap. And when she had her own, child, she had a bad return to work experience at Procter and Gamble. And this is kind of the dirty secret. A lot has gotten better, but they didn't hold her spot for her. It was like this classic story where she, didn't matter how well she performed, they backfilled her role. So here she said, I'm at one of the most powerful, most well-respected companies in the world, and even they don't have this figured out. Like, this has got to be a thing. And kind of generalizing, founders fit into kind of two molds. You've got activists and analysts, right? And the activist is, lives it, joy, like literally try to build better milk, right? Manufacturing, like lives it, knows the problem. And the analyst sees, a giant market opportunity, and they're drawn to that market opportunity, right? And Allison basically brought her personal activist experience and combined it with her analyst know-how from Procter to realize that this isn't just a nice thing to do, that this is good business. So that's kind of how we got started.
So you come up with that idea, the kind of the problem, the analyst side, the passion, and now you kind of say, okay, hey, we want to create this business called the Mom Project. So now you're kind of in what, I guess what we'd call pre-seed, and you got to kind of raise some money. So how does that, how do you start out? You kind of call some friends, you guys put in, how does that go?
Yeah, she's much better at answering these questions the way people want to hear them. I mean, the answer is you can't raise money from institutionals until they believe that you can run your business without them putting a lot of time into it. I mean, that is just the hard truth. And depending on the type of business you're in, the metric to accomplish that goal is different, right? If you're in a community-based business, total users, monthly active users, right? Those are the indicators. If you're in a consumer business, your cost of acquisition, your revenue growth. But there is no fairy tale. Like I had a good concept, I had a good launch, and here I have $1 million. That goes to people who previously have done it. Goes to people who had been longtime employees watching people previously who did it. Often that's a risky path for an investor. And it goes to people from Stanford, right? And that's the truth. So the rest of us, like, if we want to do something, we have to realize we need to bunker down, and you need to believe that you know what to do, and you have a way to get to that proof point without bringing in the outside capital beyond your ability to raise it within your own scope, because it doesn't really happen. It's hard to do. Yeah.
So you kind of had the idea, and I know there was a seed round, but in between there, anything happened, or you hit the proof point, or where did that go?
There was 2 years in between, right? So we launched April. So we really launched in May. We got lucky. Luck is surprisingly consistent, but Chicago Tribune put us on the cover of the business section, right? So in a way, they validated us for the business community. That was a big moment. They validated that it felt different, and that it was something that businesses should take seriously. So that was a break for us. And we got big traction, and we got customers right away, and the metrics looked great. Couldn't raise a dollar, right? Couldn't raise a dollar. And I could throw all the reasons, female leader. At the time, I was hiding, right? Like I was helping, I hadn't fully, I jumped over in the first year from private equity, and just most irresponsible thing I ever did. But at the time I was hiding, female founder, comes from CPG. Even when I joined, I was from, mid and large cap private equity. What did I know about venture, right? Like it didn't matter. So we put the money in personally because it was just this thing. It's like, is this worth doing? Yes. Do we believe it's working? Yes. So are we gonna decide, are we gonna put ourselves against this, or are we gonna walk away? And that's a forking decision. You got to be honest. And we decided we're going to put ourselves against it. So we basically, pushed through the objection, pushed through the lack of understanding through revenue, because we realized that, and this is a theme about sexism, that women and often minorities, they need to prove, and they need to prove in a way that silences before they get the same amount of credit. And for us, that was revenue, right? For us, that was customers and retention and reputation. It wasn't just press, right? It was being taken serious as a serious business. And so we built it for 2 years, basically funding it ourselves, like putting some months like $10,000 in at a time, guys. Like this is no glory story, right? and then we built it big enough that then we were able to get money.
Yeah, it's kind of towards the seed round, and it's not too dissimilar from Isabel's story from Canela that she was talking about yesterday, right? And what she had. So seed round comes, and this is kind of roughly where I got connected to the Mom Project. And on my side, I saw kind of two things as an investor, right? On one side, moms have been very important to me in my life and all that. But the second side was, I would walk into so many meetings and see nothing but guys around the table. And I'm like, this is not, and all the diversity thing. I'm like, this is not, there's something wrong here. And there's going to be huge demand for it. So I said, kind of on two sides, it's a huge opportunity. So seed round, what happens at seed round, and how did the seed round come together?
Well, by the way, when investors tell you, don't take money now, prove it out. You don't need the money right now. You need to work on your business. That's BS, right? What they're really saying is, prove to me that you can do it without me putting work into it, right? So we did that. We did 2 years. We were so efficient. We were so efficient. So that when we actually got money, and the opportunity of deploying that money was also so efficient because there were so many good places to put it. And so through sheer efficiency and maintaining authenticity, when we got money, we were able to deploy it in a way that it really multiplied the business. So we grew 3x, right? And we were able to raise money sequentially. So, the good side is we learned the business. We learned how to be realistic when things weren't working. The bad side is when you have an idea and you believe it merits an opportunity to be funded and succeed or fail in the market, that it's probably harder than generally people tell you it is to get to that point.
Yeah, and it's not that, when we're, Canela, we saw the seed round, they just had their Series A, and we've kind of seen an inside view on that. So seed round happens, you get some funding, there's a little bit of a pop there, you're driving efficiencies. Series A comes in, and so Serena Williams, and was it roughly the Series A? How does that happen? Where does she come in?
So there's this dynamic with raising money, unless you're growing 5x year over year, and then raising money isn't your problem. Your problem is your crazy valuations and managing that, right? So if you're growing 2 to 3, 4x, right? It's one round is very hard, the next round is easier. Then one round is hard, and the next round is easier. So the Series A actually was relatively easier, right? Because we were able to grow efficiently. It's that product market fit. Can you deploy it into a new market? You attract new types of investors. That was our first time getting East and West Coast investors. Up until that point, we were Chicago and Atlanta focused. And so we started working with Initialized Capital, which at the time is Gary Tan, who was the original investor in Coinbase, and Analyst Ohinian, most famous for being Serena Williams' husband, but also an incredible investor and just like a great people person. And I feel like I'm doing a disservice here because I'm not talking about Allison so much. This business succeeded because Allison is an incredible person. And she's like a very thoughtful business person. So, every time she met someone, like she didn't try to get something out of them. She tried to understand what interested them. And so she built these really strong relationships. So through Alexis, he introduced Serena to the company. And I'd love to say it was just overnight. I think, she spent about a year getting to know our team, right? She was incredibly thoughtful, right? Who she associates with, especially on a topic as close to her as family. Like it's a big deal, right? And like we work really hard to make her proud, right? So that happened, and that was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and by the way, that was a great movie. Like, was it King Richard? Yeah. It was like, if you haven't seen that movie, it's a great movie about her, Serena Williams, and her growing up.
Yeah.
So Series A happens. You guys continue to grow, and now give us some so now you guys are growing. You're talk about Series B. Kind of immediately after Series A, are you planning for Series B? Are you saying, no, we're going to put our heads down and focus? How many months out was it? You saying, hey, we want a different set of investors? What's kind of going in your mind from kind of like Series A to Series B?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, investors are giving you periods of time, right? The amount of money you have is like actually not the translation. It's like how many months are they giving you? And if they give you what you say is 18 months of runway, then they're discounting and saying, okay, that's probably 50 months or 40 months when they miss their plan. And then they need to start raising, 150 days. So they're giving you a year of cash, right? So we got like a true 18 months of cash runway in our Series B. We grew it. And we grew it to an interesting spot. We grew it to a spot that was a runway. Oh, no one likes to hear themselves. We grew it to a spot where we were big for early and small for growth. Okay, and this sounds like a silly distinction, but venture capital firms, especially the top tier ones, they organize around those two teams, right? And so we were growing so well, we went to growth. We said, oh, okay, in 6 months, we're clearly in growth. So we went to growth. But we made a mistake because majority of venture capital was built on a pure play SaaS and software investment model. And so $20 million in run rate revenue in a SaaS business is different than $20 million of run rate revenue in a marketplace business or a marketplace and SaaS mix business, which we were at the time and we still are today. And so we basically misplayed. Instead of staying with early, we went to growth, right? And that was a collective mistake, right? I've actually never talked about it. We took our licks. But what it meant is we had like 3.2x growth. We had like 280%, customer retention and expansion, right? Like we had like these great metrics, but we were jamming up, right? And we were jamming up, and we jammed up right up into end of February 2020.
What happened in February 2020?
Well, we decided not to ignore what was happening in the rest of the world is what happened in February 2020. And this is a real testament because along the way, you're going to meet people who tell you a lot of things and they tell you to believe in you. And it's a real test to say, I'm going to choose the people that I genuinely feel get me, right? So what happened in February 2020 is that we saw, that the world was going to shut down. And we said, okay, we have enough money around the table and we have some interesting new investors. It's not Sequoia, which is, we can have a separate discussion about whether it's smart to do that or not. It's usually smart though. And we preemptively dropped the price of the deal by 15% and we brought it home literally 2 weeks into the shutdown, right? And that never happens if you don't have people who genuinely believe in you and you're not genuinely looking at them and saying, when stuff gets tough, do I believe you've got my back, right? Not just like, this is a great brand, or like I can leverage this to do other things. But like, does this singular person, do I believe they have my back? So if I can give you one piece of advice, is that, I didn't think that, growing 3.3x and, would have had an issue raising money, right? But business could have been substantially different had we not had that loyalty, because the world changes sometimes, right? Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. The pandemic for our business was actually in the long term for the better, right? Because we had built around, flexibility, respect, total work, remote, right? These are core values that our culture, the way we speak to the market and the way our technology was built. So, once the world started to rebound in the third quarter of 2020, we had a multi-year advantage, right? But the end of February 2020, it didn't feel like it, right? So.
Wow. So you get through COVID, get through COVID, and then things stabilize a bit. There's a lot of tech demand, and you guys are going there, and so talk us. So now you had a big Series C round, right? And how do you gear up for that, and how does that come together? And also kind of just let everybody know how much you raise, and really, I mean, you think about it. Series C happened in October of 2021 ish. I think it was roughly October.
So Series C, we closed in July, but we
formally announced
in
in
October.
October.
We had the blessing and the elongation of getting the Wall Street Journal to pick up the release. And it just takes a long time to get through the journal. They take their stuff real serious. So we actually closed it in July, and we actually moved early, right? So we said, okay, market trends are right. So we were actually in a position of saying, we believe the right thing is to bring more capital in before we technically need it from a runway standpoint, so that we can invest more rapidly behind the trend. So that was a really privileged place. But the thing I actually think is most interesting about Series C is raising Series C is the hardest hump round besides seed, because a lot of businesses can get to like a $20 million run rate, right? A lot of businesses can have a niche, they can have a specialty, they can have a purpose. But like venture capitalists don't invest in businesses that like can get to 20 or maybe 30 or 40, right? That's not interesting to a Series C. They're looking at saying, can I get a 5 to 10x return with relative certainty? So can you be a $500 million business, right? Can you be $1 billion business? And so a lot of companies, they trip up there and they don't necessarily go away, but then they're forced to level off, right? And then they become effectively a niche business or a small business. So the Series C was exciting because it was like that, the journey that we had to get there. But it was also exciting because it was like a true recognition from the market that this is finally being seen for the big conceptual, like shifting idea that it was, right? And this is really just the beginning.
And just so everybody's clear, how much money did you guys raise in your Series C?
It's so gauche to say the number.
It's how much you raised. It's public. It's public.
Yeah,
I'm
kidding. I'm joking. We raised $80 million. Yeah.
So, so a couple different rounds, and they raised 80 million Series C, and you kind of saw the journey, right, in the different rounds, along the way. And it's really been fascinating to watch them grow over time, and kind of the next close, maybe two additional questions, and then we'll wrap here. But so successful Series C, we saw the journey along the way, impacting moms, great customers. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as always. Like we get up in the morning to get moms jobs, right? And we get up the next day to get moms jobs. Our North Star is economic opportunity. Actually, finding a North Star is really cool because as a super early startup, you have these constellations of concepts, but the faster you can get to like, this is my unifier. So Allison really got there in early 2021. So it's economic opportunity. How much money are we putting in our pocket in a given year? So we put $200 million in our pocket in 2021. We upskilled into technology gateway roles, 2,100 women, predominantly women of color, 70% women of color. And in the next year, we will surpass $1 billion in economic opportunity. We will continue to evolve ways that mom can not just feel empowered, but be in control of how she arrives at her next steps. And ultimately, our goal is to take the business public so that we can return, business to mom, so that whether Allison and I are here for however long, hope they don't kick me out too soon, but for however long, right? As long if we can get it back to her, we believe that she'll be able to keep it, candid and focused on carrying this forward. So,
oh, what a great aspiration, and we look forward to at some point that going public and being a part of the celebration with you.
Yeah.
And then I guess my last question is, if you look at moms, the Hispanic community across the country, moms within our Hispanic community, just Mom Project's thoughts there, and then any other kind of words of kind of wisdom or perspectives that you'd like to leave to our members, all angel investors, and thoughts of your experience as how we could be more helpful to startups, and just your experience with angel investors along the way, both sides.
So for Hispanic mom, this is the past 2 years. This has been something that's been really bothering me. Hispanic women, as much as any group, have had the most punitive experience through COVID, right? They have some of the biggest responsibilities, and they have, frankly, the biggest pay gaps, right? And they just show up and they just care about everything, right? They don't ask. They want things to be better. And I feel like not enough is happening, right? And so Allison and I talk all the time. We were in Chicago and we just moved to Miami. Our business is remote, and we look at being in Miami as an opportunity to better focus on the Hispanic community and how we think about the business, and how we make her realize that this is the place for her to be, to trust, to partner with on figuring these questions out. And then I can move to your second question, which is a little bit less inspirational, which is advice to angel investors is diversify. I had that mentor once tell me, he said, only buy insurance for things you can't replace. And I think about that with angel investing. It's like, I want to angel invest, and we do angel invest, but we invest sizes we're comfortable with, and we invest multiple deals, right? And so, find your model that makes you comfortable, right? That you don't need that insurance, right? And then when you have that, just be honest with yourself about whether you think something's interesting. Because in an angel network, that's a special type of arrangement, right? It's not an institutionalized. Sometimes it's got a funded piece, right, that helps. But when angels are involved in a deal, right, those founders aren't going to raise the next round with that angel group leading that deal, right? And so that's a big trade-off too, from a focus of their time. So when they engage with the angel network, they're genuinely invested in seeing how that network can show up and help them innovate. They don't know who in your network to go to. They can get the list of people, but they don't know who's active. So pick deals that you believe in and help them know how you can be helpful.
Excellent. Well, Greg, like the video, we want to say thank you. And I think we're 2 years old. We're a 2-year-old organization, and we'll look back 4 or 5 years from now, we'll have 50 sponsors ish, maybe more. But I always think it's the ones that come in early, right? That believe in our vision, that want to partner, that I think are the true trailblazers and the visionaries, and frankly, just like a startup, are the most important. So I just want to reiterate and say thank you, and we look forward to being a partner and sharing in mutual success along the way. So let's give it up for Greg Robinson. Thank you. And I think then that wraps it for the pitch night. For those who are interested in investing in the companies, make sure you log your interest in Gust. I don't know if there's still drinks up there or no. All right. And for those who are remote, thank you. And next pitch night is May 12th, Silicon Valley. And it's going to be a great one. Thank you. Have a great evening.